Good day. This is an SPSS lesson on univariate descriptives. The file we're going to be using is one that students in my classes will have available, one.datatypes with the extension .save, which is the SPSS data file extension. We're going to be looking at a few univariate descriptives, which we call univariate because they are descriptive statistics on one variable at a time rather than combinations of variables. To get the mean, variance, and standard deviation of a variable we're calling map, we're going to use two methods. Both are through the descriptives drop-down. One is descriptives and one is explore. Then we're going to create z-scores, transform each original map score into its z-score equivalent. And we're going to take a look at what those z-scores look like, both in relation to the original variable and in terms of a visualization using histograms. Then we'll look at how to export that material into different formats. So here I have our data. The third column of data is the one that we call map score, which is a score on an achievement test of some type. Excuse me if that didn't come up before. You now should be seeing this file called one.datatypes with the display in the data view. So we can see that we have the variable map score, which is a score on some kind of achievement test. So the first task we're going to do is obtain the basic univariate descriptive statistics on the map. And to do that, we go to Analyze, Descriptives with its set of choices. And the first method we're going to use is the basic descriptives. So this is very simple. We drag map over to the variable list. And we look at our set of options. By default, we get the mean, the standard deviation. We get the minimum and the maximum. We can get the variance, which we're going to ask for, and this other things that we're not going to ask for at this point. You have to check the variance because it's not provided by default. I'm going to also check the range so we can look at the range in relation to the minimum and the maximum, just for our own observations. Make sure that you are seeing the output, which I believe you are. Okay, so here you see for the map score, there are 50 scores. The minimum score is 640, the maximum score is 1600, and the range is 960, meaning maximum minus minimum is 960. And you'll see that that is what we call the exclusive range. For the range to be inclusive, that means including both the minimum and the maximum score as part of the range, you'd add 1, giving you 961. The mean score is here, standard deviation, and variance. And if you wanted to check that relationship, the variance is the standard deviation squared. The standard deviation is the square root of the variance. Now we're going to use, I'm going to just display that you can also get this under the frequencies options. You can also often get the same descriptive statistics under multiple options in SPSS. So you can see this under frequencies, you go to the set of statistics available. And you can see you can get the mean. Here you can also get the median and the mode, minimum, maximum, standard deviation, range, and so on. If you choose this approach, you have to be sure with a continuous variable to uncheck the default, which is the frequency tables. And you'll see this is a different layout, but the mean is the same. You get the median here, but standard deviation and so on are the same. And then a third method for doing this, excuse me, is under Descriptives Explore option or menu, where again, we choose, here it says as the dependent. That's if you're doing a more, the distinction between the dependent and the factor list comes into play when you're looking at more than one variable. Factors would be a categorical variable. We're just looking at the single score. And here you can get basic descriptives, as it says, which there are quite a lot of them that come in by default. We do not want any plots for this, although you can get plots. But we just want the statistics. So we'll go ahead and say, okay, and you see, you get more information here. You get a confidence interval, for instance, the confidence interval around the mean, median, variance, and so on. You also get the interquartile range, which is the range between the third and first quartile, the 75th and 25th percentiles, and skewness and kurtosis statistics, which I would not put too much emphasis on. So that's how you get those things. One of the things you always want to verify for your own knowledge, at least, is it will never be wrong in SPSS, but just for your own knowledge is the relationship between the standard deviation and the variance. And if you get the median, you might want to look at the relationship between the mean and the median to see if there's skewness in the data. I think that that's best with a histogram, which we'll look at later. Now we're going to get z-scores for these data. So we're going to go back to descriptive statistics. Descriptives, there's a very handy way to get these, which is called or commanded through save standardized values as variables. And remember that the z-score is a standard score. So we just say okay to that. And where is it in our output? Well, it's not in the output. You have to look in, you'll see it. There's a new variable up here. And in the variable view, you see that a new variable has created, which is called zmap, or is a z-score for the map variable. So I just want to take a look at the relationship between z-scores and raw data. And you'll notice that some z-scores are negative, some z-scores are positive. If you remember, I believe the mean of these data were 1116. So if you find a score that is on map around 1100, that should have a z-score close to 0 because the exact mean of a z-score is always 0. Little bit below 100, 1116, you see some negative scores. Above, you see some positive scores. And this data has already been sorted in terms of the magnitude of the map score, ranging from the smallest map score to the highest map score. There isn't a ton of variance in these scores, but the smallest one is about 1.5 standard deviations below the mean, a little bit more. And I can tell that because the z-score is -1.65. And the highest one is 1.67, 1 2/3 standard deviation above the mean, and that's a score of 1600. You would note that there's an exact relationship between the lowest score and on map and the lowest z-score. And we'd find that if we did a correlation of the two, is that it would be a perfect correlation. To get that sorting, what I did is I went under data. Data is not a way of changing variables, that's under transform, but it's a way of changing the way they display, changing information about them. And so we're going to go to sort cases. That's the way I did this. Map score. And say I wanted, instead of going for the lowest score in order, right? This is ascending, so it goes from lowest to highest. Say I wanted to start with the highest score. I'd pick descending. So you'll see if you go back to the data view, now the highest score is the first case in the data set, and it's the highest map score, and it's the highest z-score, of course, because they have a perfect relationship. Okay, so this is what you see about the relationship between the z-score and the map score. And now I just want to show you again their relationship using the histogram. And we know from before that you can get a histogram of a single variable using frequencies, charts, histograms. But instead of that, we're going to go to the Explore option for to get histograms. And we're going to get that. I'm going to get rid of the statistics choice. We've already looked at that. I'm going to add z-score because we want to look at them side by side. And I'm going to get plots. Now, you see here, you can get box plots. You can get stem and leaves and histograms. You can get normality plots with tests, which we don't want to do at this point. So, as I've said, a histogram I'm not that interested in. And in this case, we don't want box plots. So we're going to get histograms on both of the variables that we've chosen, and we're not going to get any of their descriptive statistics, although if we did, we'd find that the mean z-score was 0. Okay, so I think I'm just going to say okay here. And what you'll see when the output comes up is this is the z-score for the map, or this is the raw scores for the map score, and they are the same for the z-scores. The shape of the distribution is the same. The mean, as I said, is essentially 0 for these data, and the standard deviation is 1, and that's for z-scores. So there's your transformation from the raw scores to the standard scores. And the other thing you'll note is the shape of the distribution, which is generally kind of platypurtotic, in that the peak, if there isn't really a peak, and it's generally flat, or there's multiple peaks, all of which are kind of close to each other, and there are no particularly low outliers. There's no sense of a strong central tendency in the body of the shape, nor are there clear tails. So the last thing I said that we're going to do here is we're going to see how to export output. And that's kind of fun because in recent editions of SPSS, I believe this is SPSS 31 now, they've added considerably to the ways you can export data. So I'm now under File, and I'm going to go to export. And you'll see, first of all, you have a choice of all or all visible output. All is really if you want things like processing time. So we're just going to choose the visible output. And the fun thing here is that we can get lots of different document types to save this as. We can get Word, we can get PDFs, we can get PowerPoints. It used to be basically you could only get RTF. You couldn't even get Word. You can, if you go up to the top, you can get different versions of Excel, and you can get an HTML output. So I really like to get it in Excel because Excel is great for tables that can be manipulated. I'll just show that at another time, but for this point, I'm going to show HTML. And I'm going to, where is that going to save? I don't really want to save it at that directory, so I'll save it all the way up on my desktop. And I'm going to call it one.data types. And if I'm going to pause my recording so I can find this file. And here you see it on my screen. Data types. And it's popping up now. Data types. And if you scroll down, first one you see is the first one we got. And so on through all of our output in a really nice little format that's easily transportable. It does not copy well, so this is why I prefer the Excel or even the Word, but I find the Excel best to manipulate the for creating tables. But it's very portable. So that is a good feature of this type of export. So on that note, I'm going to stop. And if you have the PowerPoints, the steps that we've gone through, or most of the steps, appear on believe the chapter 4, slide 37.